Hi, it's Sandy with s.ranellearts, and I will be doing another of the nature prompts. Today is the prompt butterflies, and yesterday I did the bee video, and I posted this on Instagram and have a video of that. So that's number one, and so number two in this series is butterfly, and I drew out this little sketch. I've got this little yellow, it's a tiger swallowtail. I'm using this reference photo from Kathy Keatley Garvey for the butterfly. I'm using, actually I'm not using another photo for the buddleia, or the butterfly bush that the butterfly is on, because I used to grow these in my yard, and I know what they look like, and I know what color I want it to be and all that. So this is going to be part in real time and part in speed painting, if we can figure out the technology for that. It'll be the first time we do that. I did a sample of this earlier, and it took a long time. So I will speed paint through some parts of it. So I spritzed my palette. I am actually using, putting water on the buddleia, the butterfly bush. I'm going to do that first because that is very time consuming, and I want it to have time to dry. So I'm putting a little water on, and then I'm going to go to my pink, which is candy. They call it candy. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm using my Prima Marketing Classics palette, and I've done a review of that in my videos if you want to see. But it has some nice bright colors, and that's what I'm going after today. Not necessarily realism, although I can get the really close colors of a butterfly bush if you've seen them. So I'm laying down, wet into wet. I'm laying down some candy. The centers of the little flowers, this is made up of hundreds of thousands of flowers, maybe tens of thousands of flowers, one flower is. And the centers are sort of a magenta pink with a bright orange dot in them. So I am going to, I practiced a couple of techniques to see which would be the best, and this is the winner so far, so let's see how it goes. At this time, I'm going to take a tiny bit of the orange, the carrot, very loose, and just kind of put some around where I would like a center to be on these flowers. And there are so many of them that this is really just going to be somewhat impressionistic. I'm not going for realism here. All right, so we'll let that dry, and we'll begin to work on the butterfly. I'll have a list in the description below of all the materials that I've used, especially since I know this takes a long time, and I'm trying to go through it a little faster than the last one. It took me an hour to do the last one, and I couldn't even use it. I have to delete it. So this is Mr. No Name. This brush has no name because I don't know where I got it, when I got it, what size it is, who makes it, any of that. However, it kind of looks like it might be around 8 or 10. It doesn't have a, it has really good uses here if I want a nice loose flow of water, nice loose wash. So we'll kind of put that off to the side for now. The next one I'm using is my number 8 Grumbacher. I've spritzed my palette with, I'll do it again, with my little fine mist sprayer, and I'm going in now. This tiger swallowtail is actually a very light, it's almost lemon yellow would be a better choice, but I don't have that in this palette. This color, this yellow, is called Canary, and it's pretty bright, so I'm going to try to make it just a very light wash of this for my first wash. And I'm going to leave some white areas for highlights. And I'm also going to do the area that looks predominantly black with some yellow, because there are some yellow spots in it. So I'll go ahead and lay down that wash of a very pale yellow, as pale as I can get. Oh, it looks like I just dipped into some pink. Ah, clean your palette before you start, Ramberg. You'll hear me from time to time call myself Ramberg. I was a math teacher for 30 years or so, and the kids all just by the end were calling me Ramberg, and it almost sounds disrespectful when I say it out loud, but actually it was just a lot of love, great kids. I miss them. I miss the kids terribly. I don't necessarily miss being in the classroom, but once a teacher, always a teacher. I seem to be over here teaching. All right, so I will lay in that wash, and actually I think I'll just go ahead and do the whole thing for the body. And there's a little overlap where the bottom wing overlaps the top wing, so I'm going to take a tiny bit of the carrot, the orange, and just spread that out in there, because it's so pale I don't really feel like I need to even do a second wash on here, as long as it seems to have enough dimension. And I'm just going to add a little bit in the body, a little bit of the carrot orange. I'll just let a little of that run into the body. And the back wing is a little darker. Yeah, I will edit that out. Oh, my studio is my kitchen island, and that was my husband, and I had to put him on hold. Poor baby. All right. I could go into living with an artist, how badly I feel for him having to live with someone who is constantly trashing the house in order to create whatever, see something, or the compulsion to paint what I see. That was something I was having a discussion with my sister yesterday. She's an artist as well. She does paint. She paints with acrylic, and she also does fiber arts and all that. And she and I just get so excited. We're talking about this, just that need to create that some people have, and you kind of can't fight it. All right, I'm taking a little of the same thing that I used on the butterfly, a little of the yellow and a little of the carrot, and I'm doing the stem, and I'm actually going to put a touch of green in here, because it's not really a yellow stem, but it's not really a very bright green stem, which is what I just got there. So while that's still kind of wet, I'm going to take a tiny bit of the orange, the carrot. I think that'll brown it up a little, and that actually might be just what I am looking for. Sometimes you want to mix on the palette, and sometimes you want to mix on the paper. This was sort of not a happy accident, but a corrective way to handle this. All right, this is just a little extra. I think I'll take some artistic license there and put some down on the other side as well. Get some of that. All right, let's wash that out. And I think I'll put a little bit of the pink that I have here. All right, and a little down here too, just some of these random little flowers that go there. All right, nice and light. I'm going to use my blow dryer on this, so I'll edit this out and I'll be back. I have dried this with my hair dryer. If you have it, use a diffuser, because it will cause your wet paint to run. I found that out the hard way. All right, I'm going to try to make this Buddleia into a purple. It's called a Black Knight Buddleia. Buddleia is a butterfly bush, and I want it to be a dark purple, and I need to figure out what is going to work the best for me. So this point, I think this brush has too much of a point on it. Yeah, I probably will not be as happy with that one. So I will put the number 8 down, and I will take up the little no name, and I'm going to dip it into a lot of pigment. I'm using the purple, and I am just going to begin to poke it. It'll take a while, So I'm going to stop talking and speed this up. So I'm back for a little bit before I go back. I dried this next layer and I still am not getting exactly the effect I want. So I need to go back in with another layer. I need this to be a lot darker in certain areas, and then I'll give it some shadow as well. One of the things that I am doing I wanted to talk about is like for down here at the bottom, I really want the individual petals to show. So I'm almost using a dry brush technique. Let's get an actual dry brush here. Let me take this up here and kind of use some of these colors here to darken this. And then I'm moving the brush in different directions so that I can give the illusion of petals, so that if you just stay going in the same direction, it'll just look like the, I don't know, it doesn't look like, it looks like a big blob. Okay, that went a little bigger than I want, so no problem. I'll just pick up a little more paint. And the buddleia, which the butterfly bush, is has like these levels in it. It has like a here, and then a big area here with a great width, and then it goes thinner, and then it gets bigger again. Sometimes they don't bloom at the tip, but they bloom at the bottom. Anyway, these little pieces down here, I want to just kind of scrub in some petals, and then I'll add some centers. They'll get a little bit more detail than the actual larger one because they are single. This is, like I said, just a great big bundle of thousands of little petals, and that is why the butterflies love them, because they take their little, I'm going to say proboscis, but I don't know. This has probably got a different name. Their little nose thing, and they put it inside of each of the little trumpets. These are each like a little tiny trumpets. And in the summer, when during tiger swallowtail season, you can just sit and watch. And the nice thing about butterflies, one of the things I love about this is they don't get scared. So they don't really care that you're standing there observing them or taking pictures. It's almost like they don't even have an idea that you might be a threat to them. And so, you couldn't go up to a hummingbird really unless you really spent a lot of time around them and got them used to your presence. They'll fly away right away. I'm trying to remember if I saw hummingbirds at these. I feed the hummingbirds, and I always did in my garden. Now, these buddleia, also called butterfly bushes, where we live in, I had them in Washington, but I also have them, I live in Oregon, and I have them in Oregon too. I had a black knight, the one I'm trying to do here, this black knight bush, which I just love the colors of, and it died. It didn't make it through winter or something. I forget exactly what happened. And so I went back to the nursery, and I said I'd like to buy a black knight butterfly bush. Where are your butterfly bushes? And they said, oh, we don't sell those. That's an invasive species. And I was like, what? I bought them here. Well, a few years, I guess they didn't really consider it an invasive. A few years before, they didn't consider it an invasive species. But then, I'm not sure what changed, but when I went back to find one, they were no longer available. And that was disappointing to me. Interesting. And in my yard, I probably had about 10 of them that I had brought over or had seeded, and I didn't pull out. They kind of want you to remove your butterfly bushes because they are an invasive species here, and I wasn't about to do that because they brought the butterflies and I really love them. And If you've ever, they make great cut flowers. I used to cut them and they'd last for a long time in the vase. And the other thing is they smell like baby powder. They just have this amazing smell or scent. And so I was not about to get rid of my butterfly bushes, and I thought, oh, my 10 little butterfly bushes can't be a problem. It's not, it's not me causing the problem. Well, then one day I was sitting at the light on the way, getting ready to get on the exit ramp for the freeway, and I saw all these butterfly bushes just blooming out there in nature, and realized that, it is a problem. And, I never did get rid of mine because we sold the house, but I don't think the people who bought the house really are that into the garden, so maybe they will remove them. They got awfully big too, and they would have been really hard to pull up. So yeah. All right. So what I've been doing is doing a bit of a dry brush, and one of the things is I know this was not an expensive brush, and I don't really mind kind of trashing it. So I'm coming in here and I'm getting just pasty or thicker consistency of my pigment, and that's not only going to give me that darker color, but also I can do the dry brush technique with it, so it's not very watery. And I'm coming in here and I'm moving my paper around. This nice little piece of paper, this is Bee paper, BEE paper company. It's 100% cotton, and I'll put it in the description. It's 140 cold press, 140 pound cold press, and that's what I'm hoping to use for this whole series. I like it. Has a nice soft texture. I don't remember if I mentioned that at the beginning, but I'm mentioning it now. All right, this is looking okay. It's looking like I want it to look. I'd like to kind of round some of the wider areas, because that is definitely how this looks. So I'm going to take this and round a couple of these little areas, and yeah, I'm going to do that. It'll just take me another minute or so, and then I'm going to go back in. This is fairly dry, and add my let me round that out a little bit, and add my pinks and oranges for the centers of that, and that'll really hopefully get me some more petals, and then I can go back in and add any more purple that I feel like I need for shadows and things like that. So touch that. I don't know why I'm not even using it yet, but I'll go back to my little butterfly and get him working while this dries a little bit, so I don't interfere with the color. All right, so I'm not going to use this brush on the butterfly. That's just too big. I need a black, and from doing this earlier, I have used my blueberry and my cocoa, and it makes a nice black. And I'm going to add some more blue, because I like the way the blue looks. And I'm going to come in and add a little detail on my butterfly. Now, I have to say that this is a different butterfly than the first one I practiced, and so I don't think this brush is going to really do what I need, and this isn't pointy enough. Ooh, I'm going to try it. All right, I'm going to try my 0 silver white round, and this may be too small to do what I want. Ah, that's nice. That's rich. A little more blue, so it's not quite so black, but I got a nice consistency there. And I'm going to add some of the details in for this butterfly. So I just checking out my reference picture and giving him just a little bit of the black on the body. I'm going to keep it fairly fast and easy. I'm not trying to do realism, photorealism or anything. I just want to get the idea across that this is a little butterfly on here. And just put a little black in there. And here, I might speed this up. I'll talk in the meantime, just in case I don't want to, but there's his little nose dipping in, and he's got a couple little feet but I'm not even sure I drew those, so I might or might not put those in. And there's some of the black. Now I did do this morning, and it did not come out as nicely as I had wanted, so I redid it. And that happened with the bee picture as well. I just wasn't happy. I spent so much time on the butterfly bush and not enough on the butterfly, and by the time it got done, you could see the butterfly looked like a cartoon and the butterfly bush looked really realistic. And I was like, okay, let's rethink that. I did it at 7 this morning. I could blame it on lack of coffee, but I don't know. All right, I'll speed this up and just go along these lines. Okay, hi, I'm back. So I outlined some of the details on the butterfly. I'm going to make this a little blacker here. I'm not trying to be realistic. I'm not trying to be perfect, but there are a couple of things that I notice. I tried to do it's a tiger swallowtail. It has little tiger stripes, and I tried to do that with this brush, this little 0 round, and that is a no-go. So I'm going to let's see what's on that. Okay, that's black on that, or blue. I'm going to mix a little more pigment here, and I have it very thick and pasty to get a nice dark black, because frankly I don't want to go over this too many times, but I'm going to do the stripes on him, and I tried to do it with a smaller brush, and I ended up with, it wasn't that easy to do, so I'm going with a little bit bigger brush just to get these on. I don't want to get crazy realistic here. It just takes up too much time. So I'd like to just throw some of those in here. Now there are plenty of lines I could add later, but I might just give the illusion of those. So let me get these stripes in. These really are beautiful butterflies. We know about monarchs, and I didn't even actually really know that much about these until I moved here. We don't get monarchs here in the Pacific Northwest. I know that they winter in Mexico, and I forget, I believe they're on the East Coast. I'm pretty sure when I lived on the East Coast I had seen them, but I just know for a fact that we don't get them here, but we do get these. And the caterpillars are kind of cool because they look striped just like the butterfly does. All right, there are all kinds of little black lines there, but I just don't want to get into it, so maybe I'll just give the illusion of a few. And this kind of has a little bit of a line going down there. I don't want to make this too difficult, and getting the illustration close is close enough. And just a little bit more there, and there are plenty of, there's a little blue area and a little orange area. I could add all that, but I don't know that I'll do that in this. Again, I'm not trying to be perfect, just trying to show some technique, and also I'd like to have this done for the world. So this is for the World Watercolor Group's prompts. They put a prompt out. I really like them on Instagram. They put a prompt out every month, a list of prompts, and it is definitely one of those things that can get you motivated to paint every day if that's your goal. It was definitely a goal for me, and I think I'm going to start with a little bit of, I have some pink in there, but I really want to, well, no, I'll do the pink. But anyway, I don't want it, I want this nice and thick. I don't want it, it should be really bright, and I don't want it too watery. So let's see what we get. And that looks okay to me. I'm going to throw some centers in here, and then when it dries a little bit, and then I will go in and put a little dark orange dot in there, and I think I will call that good. I might add some shadows while I'm waiting for the pink to dry so I can put the orange in. Anyway, so World Watercolor Group puts out these prompts, and I don't always follow them, but I followed some in January, and they do, if you aren't sure what to paint, you don't have anything on your agenda to paint, but you want some ideas, follow them on Instagram, and they every month they put out this list of prompts, and this month it's nature. And honestly, I'm a day late in doing this because yesterday took up so much time. So this was supposed to be posted yesterday. I don't know what today's prompt is for the 3rd. I knew it at one point, but I forgot already. But I will go and take a look at that and then plan that out as well. So I'll probably be a day behind. But I post all my stuff, and everybody's super generous there. All the artists there are just really, you know, they'll answer questions if you put them on. I got a lot of my followers from posting on there, and it's inspiring, and it gives you something to paint every day. So even if you're just, it's the end of the day and you're like, oh, I'm tired, I didn't get to paint today, it's too busy. Oh, wait, they want me to paint new shoes. Okay, I can paint shoes, or I can at least draw shoes. Well, now I've drawn the shoes. Well, now I can paint the shoes, or in this case, a butterfly. And, you know, I find it really helpful to me. All right, I'm gonna let that dry for a minute before I go in with the pink, rather the carrot, and I'm going to take my bigger brush, get a little bit more. That's probably the wrong end of the brush. I'm not sure how much you can see what I'm doing, but I just stuck the wrong end of the brush into the water for no reason whatsoever. All right, I'm picking up a little more purple, and I'm actually going to mix it with a tiny bit of the orange because the color is just a little less Black Knight-like than I wanted. All right, and I'm just going to go and add a little bit of shadow to kind of delineate these. It's a little wet. Let's get a little bit more pigment in there, and I want to kind of separate and put some shadow in to separate some of these clusters. And so there's that. That's nice and dark, and maybe under this one, so that'll be one, and over here. So while I'm doing that, one of the things that I was thinking about while I was working on the speed painting part of the detail on the butterfly was the fact that I only went over him once. Maybe it's a she, I don't know, but I only went over her once with color, light, the canary, and then I just added a little bit of the carrot into the wet into wet, and that actually looks better in my opinion than the first one I did, where it's like I overworked it. I made it too bright, and it didn't follow what an actual swallowtail looks like. They're very, very light in color, and so this is a little more realistic, a little closer to what I was going for. All right, I'm not loving the shape of this butterfly bush. It's definitely not as good as the first one that I did, but I don't want to necessarily take any more time, or maybe I will finish it up and speed it, because I'm looking at my one I did this morning, and even though I like the color of this one better, I like the shape of that one better. So these paintings, you do speed painting, assuming I get the editing, my husband and I get the editing right. I'm not sure how long this video will take, but even just a painting like this takes a long time, and you can't rush it. You can't rush watercolor. You can blow dry it in between stages, but you don't want to mess with it when it's wet, because it will give you some really bad results and stuff. So, all right. I might do some finishing touches on that and speed paint that too, just to figure out why the one I did this morning looks so much better than this one. But let me add the orange, and You know, this is off the subject, but I'm going to come in with the orange, and I took a little of the muddy, and I'm going to hit the green up a little bit and get a little bit more of that, and just put a little bit more color into my stem, just to give it a little more dimension and a little more life. All right, clean the brush. Try to get a tip on here. If I can, I need some carrot, and I need it nice and highly pigmented, shall we say, or just really, I don't want a lot of water. I want a lot of pigment. And I'm coming in, and wherever I have a pink, this might be a little too much water even, wherever I have a pink, I want to put in some orange. And maybe even some of the places where I don't have any pink, I'm going to put in some orange to make it look like there are centers everywhere, because there are so many flowers. And just going to plop those in, so I'll go through that pretty quickly. I almost think I want to mix it with a bit of the candy and get just a really intense orange in there, because I'm not seeing it as I plop it in over the pink. It's not holding its own. I think I went maybe too dark on the pink for this orange, so I'll go a little darker on the orange, and then wherever there seems to be a light spot, I'm going to put in a dot, just to get some of those centers in there, because I didn't leave a lot of, this is a very full and lush butterfly bush. All right, that is about, I think, what I'm going to do. See, now when I put it over the purple, you can't see it. And the only way to really fix that is either lift out the purple, which I'm not going to do any lifting in this one, or go back in with an opaque, a gouache or an acrylic or some kind of a gel pen, and I'm probably not going to do that. So, and again, this is supposed to be about the butterfly, not the buddleia, but why not? All right. I think that's it. I am going to maybe add a few more details, but not bore you with the details, as they say. I think I will end this. There's a little aqua right here, and I don't know if this is going to show up, but I put a little aqua in there and a little bit in there, and why not? Okay, and the last thing I will do before I say goodbye is just a little extra purple shadow. What am I going to mix with this? A little extra purple shadow. Oh, please tell me I'm not going to regret this. Underneath where my little butterfly is sitting, and just adding a tiny bit of shadow. I'm not sure, that's actually coming out a little brown. So I think I should know better. Mixing purple with orange is going to give me brown. So I'll take that back out, and I'll go back there with some purple, a little bit of the wet purple, and get that in there. And actually, I'm kind of liking the way that looks, so I'm going to go back under where some of these areas are supposed to be like separated, and maybe do a little bit more purple. I like the way that looks. A little bit more shadow. And I think I'll be done for now. All right. So thank you for watching. Hit thumbs up and please subscribe. Have a good day.